What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements.
Let's take a couple questions about the other series, and then we can head over to playback. First one, why do you think people seem to not like Tyrese Haliburton's play? You know, he got voted the most overrated player, obviously, when the evidence seems to show that he's someone who is having playoff success, can lead a team to the conference finals. He's good in the clutch. He impacts winning. What is sort of the issue around the perception of Tyrese Haliburton?
So I think that most basketball junkies out there like Tyrese Haliburton, at least from what I can tell and from my perspective, in the sense that they can see his value and what he does really well. I think among NBA players, he's just a shit talker. And I don't think it's any more complicated than that. Like, he is good and he kicks your ass and he talks a bunch of shit. And I think it just rubs everybody the wrong way. And I think also, I do think that there's such a thing as, I think that there are a good chunk of NBA players who see the game through the lens of what they do. And I think you see a lot of manifestations of this around the league where like stars will like certain types of role players but dislike other types of players because they kind of like fit their own basketball worldview, right? Like how many times have we seen, you remember with like Rajon Rondo on the Lakers, for instance, is a great example. We're watching from the sidelines and we're like, why the hell is Rajon getting all these minutes over Alex Caruso? But it's like, so the guys in that locker room, they're like, Rajon's a genius. You know, we're gonna like he's gonna guide us. He's our point guard. You know, LeBron was always obsessed with backup playmaking in that phase of his career, if you remember correctly. So like, it just is one of those things where I think there are a lot of players in the league that struggle to see Tyrese's value because he's such a different kind of player than everybody. Like I by the way, there's some of this with Jokic. Like I feel like there are a lot of players. I think now everyone's kind of accepted Jokic as the obvious ass kicker that he is. But there was like like in that 2022, 23, 24, there were a lot of years there where it seemed like some of the players around the league didn't quite have the appreciation for what Jokic did just because he was so different. Tyrese, you combine it with him just being just a talker. And I think it just rubs everybody the wrong way among his peers. And I think that's why he gets voted like that.
Yeah, I also think there's not that anyone would be able to admit this or even be conscious of it necessarily, but there's sort of a dork factor with him and with Jokic where they're just a little bit dorky. They're not the classic Anthony Edwards, bulldog, pro athlete personality type. And I think to your point, it just, even if it's not rubbing people the wrong way, it's that it's not what they're sort of accustomed to, what these players envision the best versions of themselves or the best versions of an NBA basketball player as an idea would look and sound.
You're right. That's such a great point because it's like it extends to everything stylistically as well. Like he has 19 points tonight, and I thought he was excellent. Like that, it's not the kind of thing that's going to show up in 30, 35 point games. It's not going to show up with him dunking on your head, although he's a better athlete than I think he gets credit for. He's got kind of a funky set shot in terms of his jump shot, although he gets more lift than you'd think on some of his movement off the dribble shots. But like Tyrese is just a very unorthodox player and in almost every way on and off the court. And I think that's a big part of it.
100%. All right, let's do one more question here and then we'll go over to playback. Do you think this Pacers team is better than last year? Just, largely the same roster. Do you think this Pacers team is better? And if so, do you think they can beat Boston next round, if it would be Boston?
I think they are substantially better than that last year. And I think that they have a legitimate chance to beat Boston in a way that they didn't last year. The first piece of it is Tyrese Haliburton. Tyrese is just playing at a substantially higher level than he did last year. We talked about this with Steph Curry in the earlier segments of the show, but playoff series present unsolvable problems. It's kind of like the beating switches thing. Like at a certain point, you got to have a guy that can go one-on-one against a good defender and create a great shot. And over again, whether it was him cooking Jared Allen in game 1 in switches, or whether it's him cooking Giannis in game 6 or game 5 of the Bucks series, like he just has an upside as a switch beater in this playoff run that he did not have last year. I think that's the big difference. And that is the ceiling raiser. When Indiana got presented with the unsolvable problem that was Boston tightening the screws at the end of games last year, he wasn't able to overcome that. But This year, I think he's in a better position to do so. Then there's just some kind of incremental improvement down the roster. Ben Mathurin, I think, has been great. And his athleticism has been a big upside in this like super physical playoff environment. I thought he was a huge part of their second half comeback tonight. Aaron Nesmith has just gotten like 10% better at everything, and that has made a
Mhm.
big difference. Like he's a more of a knockdown shooter. He's better attacking closeouts. There, we can go down the roster, but like I mean, there's just so many guys. I like Miles Turner. Like there's been so much talk about whether or not the Pacers would re-up with Miles Turner and whether or not he'd be a free agent. To me, he's such a core part of what makes the Pacers great on both ends of the floor. I don't see how they could move on from Miles Turner. Like I understand you might have to make a really tough decision financially, and that may be the case. But like if you can somehow retain him, you got to retain him. He's just so important. But as a team, they're just kind of incrementally better down the roster, and then Tyrese has a superstar upside, and that to me is all it takes to make them a legitimate championship threat in a way that they weren't in years past.
Yeah, I also think that we probably underestimated as a collective the, it's relevant now, especially with Steph Curry, the hamstring injury that
Yep.
Tyrese Haliburton had last season. He, by the time the playoffs came back, it felt like he was more or less back to pre-injury self, but it's probably fair to say he was at 85%, maybe 90%, 70, 80%, maybe something in that sort of range. And that's going to make it specifically tough to beat switches, I would argue. And it's probably evidence as the fact that he's able to, blow by Giannis in a clutch moment, get major separation for a game winner tonight. He looks very healthy and very, very good.
Yep.
And that's, important to remember as we're thinking about Steph Curry's comeback. Tyrese Haliburton took 6 months. Not that, it's different. Every situation is different. Every person's different. He took
Yeah.
functionally 6 months to get back to 100%.
Yeah, his was a more severe hamstring injury, but yeah, the point still
Definitely.
stands, which is like there's also a trust element. Like I had a foot injury in JUCO where for an entire semester, all of non-conference play, I was a shell of myself because I didn't trust my ability to plant that foot. And it
Yeah.
causes you to play passively. It causes you to kind of hold like 15% of your intensity in reserve. And I think that there's an important element to where like if Steph doesn't feel comfortable really pushing off that leg, it's a problem. And there's no point in having Steph go out there if he's going to be a shell of himself and not be nearly as impactful as he needs to be. But hopefully we'll get some better news about the MRI tomorrow. That's all we have for tonight on YouTube, guys. We're headed over to playback. We'll see you guys there in just a few minutes. Remember, link is in the description here. We're going to be taking callers, taking more questions, getting into some film. We'll see you guys over there in just a few minutes.